Hi Dola, good evening.
Hey Pawan, how are you?
I'm good.
Long.
How are you? Yes, long time. So how's your quarantine time going on?
Well, it's going okay. I don't think any of the work is stopping. Almost
Yeah.
everything found its way digitally, so
Yes.
it's actually not bad now. I think I'm mentally settled with this novel.
Yes. Yes. So a lot of ideas must be coming during this time. Yes.
Absolutely. How are things with you?
Things are amazing with us. We have launched our Metamorphosis School. So it is the first of its kind of a school only for entrepreneurship at the school level.
Right.
So already we have admitted about 50 students so far. So we
Fantastic.
have got almost 150 applications, but we are going on a selection criteria. So the
Got
students
it.
are giving their statement of purpose, personal interviews, and all happening. But yeah,
Fantastic.
so it's kind
Fantastic.
of online things are going pretty good for education also. But yes, we've been missing going to the schools and interacting with the students. That is another level altogether. But now we are just sticking to the systems, and we've been delivering the classes.
No, I'm sure I totally relate to what you're saying. Almost 100% of all the sessions that I would take now has become online. While it
Yes.
gives the advantage of doing more and reaching out to more, but
Yeah.
then the feel of personal connect and all of that is obviously a bit
Yes.
lower side.
Yes, I think we're already live on Facebook. I think the viewers are there on Facebook, and they're going
I
to
like
join our Zoom session also. So we have very good diverse students. So we have more than 400 plus students. They've been watching us live. I know either they've been coming on Zoom or on Facebook, and we'll be sending the recorded sessions to a lot of schools on the topic that we've been discussing today. And it's
right.
a we have very good composition today. We have students, we have startup aspirants, we have principals, parents also joining the session today, and
Fantastic.
it's a weekend getaway for all of us. Talking to good leaders like you. And once again, thank you so much for joining the session today, Dola. The insights that you have given us almost an year ago. About the marketing, branding. We've been talking about ideation. I think the
Yeah.
students are very much excited to see you live today, and we'll see how it is going to go. So, you have any presentation to give, or or shall we just make it as informal interaction? It's up to you.
Yeah, I think that will be better, given the profile of the students is quite young. I think
Yes.
free flow conversation is something I'd be more comfortable with, and
Okay.
I will spend bulk of the next whatever 50 minutes that we have speaking less and hearing more. So I'd be very happy to take up whatever questions after the initial couple of minutes of me discussing what I really thought initially. So
Sure.
pleasure to be here and thank you.
Yes, sure. So what we will do is, anyways, we have a lot of students joining in the session. What we will do is first, half an hour, we'll just, do some informal introduction, and we will do, we will stick to the topic on, about the marketing. And later we will go deeper into the, the student ideas. We will make few of the students to present to you, and then you can give, certain insights to the students as well. People
Sure.
who actually went through Zoom. So a few of our students will do that. But okay, before that, Dola. So I wanted to ask you on about your schooling first of all. So where did you study from, and what made you to become a branding head, and was that there right from your school level what you wanted to become? So
Right.
yes, something on your schooling level. Yes.
Sure, I think it's a very interesting question, Pawan. So I have a very traditional educational background. And when I was growing up, this entire concept of entrepreneurship, the entire concept of doing something new and not so conventional was not that in. In fact, it was only later when I'd already joined profession that education, started moving towards entrepreneurship really. So I have a very traditional background. I had done very typical up till class 12th. My dad was a chartered accountant, so I knew I had to enter into chartered accountancy from the very beginning. but I always struggled with maths. Quantum was not something that I was very comfortable with. So hence I knew very early on that chartered accountancy is not something that I'll ever be able to pursue very well for the very long term, and especially not for living for sure. So I think that's when after class 12th, I did go into graduation with BCom honors. That's what I did. Thankfully, my grades were good. That's why I think I've been very fortunate to be with some of the best institutes in terms of education. Although while I was studying, each one of them followed a very traditional pedagogy as far as teaching was concerned. Okay, so I graduated from Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University, and right after that, since I was a commerce graduate, and like I'm saying that it was a very traditional setup at that time, there were only two routes one could take. Either you become a chartered accountant or you become an MBA. And since I was not good on mathematics, MBA was what I had to kind of forcibly choose. But for better or for worse, it kind of worked out well. I then took CAT, got through IMK, and did 2 years of my regular MBA from IMK. One of the two best years of my life in terms of going slightly away from the traditional. I think that's how IMK had built their entire curriculum. That while none of us were at that time aspiring to be entrepreneurs, but just by doing a lot of co-curricular work, almost starting one of its first student club back then, reaching out to corporates for sponsorship, starting our own small formats of education, it kind of imbibed a lot of entrepreneurship to ourselves as well. So that's what I did and graduated in 2012. And again, very traditionally joined the first corporate of my life and stayed with them till date. So it's been little over 8 years now with Pepsico India. And it's been a hell of a ride, I would say. But to your question, bulk of it was extremely traditional, and I really envy the kind of work that you guys do because of the whole spirit of unconventionalism that you're bringing on to students now.
Yes, interesting. So, yours was very, conventional way of education that you have gone through. And then again, and then you did MBA and then you joined a corporate. But
Yes.
this entire journey is also, I would say that, it is an entrepreneurial, right? Because I don't think that, taking decisions are so easy here because you are leading such a position and, every day you'll have to ideate, you'll have to take a lot of decisions on your own and all. So did your schooling really help you, in taking these kind of decisions, or what really is helping you to take such, very spontaneous decisions?
Right. So see, back then when I was doing my schooling, a lot was left to the individual in terms of what are the initiatives that you want to take. So let's say out of a batch of 300 plus, I don't think every individual was being made to go through a leadership skill building or was being made to go through a newer form of initiative. A lot of it was dependent upon the individual. And I was fortunate enough that from my family, there was a lot of support to go do extra and not just do the regular academics, but go do a lot of extra work. So I think from the very early age, I was engaged in a lot of debates, declamations, extempo competitions, hence a lot of traveling from school to multiple other locations. So all of that did imbibe a lot of newness into the thinking, fresh perspective, decision making, like you rightly said. I think one of the biggest decisions I took very early on was that despite the entire conditioning of going into the chartered accountancy route, I decided it for myself that no, that's not the route that I think I will be most comfortable with going forward. So from there, shifting out to a different route altogether was the first decision I think I took. And like you're rightly pointing out, Pavan, throughout these larger courses of life, whether it's schooling, whether it's graduation, post-graduation, even now at work, there are entrepreneurial challenges that come to you every day in terms of a new problem. I mean, that has come all together. For example, these sessions that I used to take, and I've been doing it for a little under 2 years now. I've already covered 1.5 lakh odd individuals physically going and meeting. But the moment this entire COVID pandemic came, I think it was a new normal that we were pushed into. And that's right when the entrepreneurial thinking had to come in. So we had to decide What will be the next modes of interaction be like? What will be the content be like? Because the traditional content may not be resonating so much.
Yeah.
How do you reach out to the last set of people who probably don't have the technology of online education right now? So you're right, there is some bit of entrepreneurship that is required at every phase of life, irrespective whether you really want to open up your own startup. I think
Correct.
that's the another level of being an entrepreneur. But otherwise, in general, every decision in life, at least these big ones, need you to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, interesting. So, I mean, the minute you have realized that, you're not getting into the commerce and, going to, or chartered accountancy and going to, MBA itself. So how did that self-realization come? Because it is not so easy for anyone to switch the background, especially that is your family background as well. Your chartered, your parents are into chartered accountancy. So, how did that self-realization come? I mean, did you speak out to anyone, or because this is something that most of us get stuck. I mean, shall we opt for commerce or science in our 11th and 12th, or after this shall I take up engineering, or shall I go to any of the bachelors of business administration? This is where
Right.
most of us get stuck. So what helped you to self realize in that journey?
I think two things in particular. One, I think all of us at some point in time would have read about SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we more or less do it in context of an organization or in context of a case study, and less in context of our own selves. So I think one thing that really helped me was to do that SWOT for my own self. I knew one of my weaknesses is, theoretical mathematics, because that was not something I was good at. Although I knew that I was very good at analytics. So I knew I'm good with data otherwise. And I can read between the lines to come out with that. I knew that I was good with people skills, something that's very, very highly required. So I think a couple of months of just personal, introspection and deliberation, and almost, I remember I still had this whiteboard and a black marker with which I would do the SWOT for myself. And that very clearly told me that this path of chartered accountancy, which almost, it was like schooling to us, right when we were born, a couple of years from then, we knew that that's what that I'd be doing. But that's what for personal self helped me know that that's not the field. Now, what's the other field then? If not chartered accountancy, then what are the other options? That's where the second aspect helped, wherein talking to a lot of people did help. A lot of seniors, family, friends. My time, there was not a lot of, LinkedIn, or a lot of, or a lot of Google, etc. was also not that in. So you didn't really have, quick clicking and asking questions online and getting answers. That wasn't there. But talking helped. Uh, uh, Learning from other people's experiences really helped. Also, I think the third thing that I did was I kind of left both options open for myself. I did enroll with chartered accountancy. I have actually cleared one exam, the first initial prelims of chartered accountancy. At our time, it used to be called as CPT, Common Proficiency Test. So I cleared that, but parallelly, I got myself enrolled with undergrad school as well, which was SRCC, just to experience it for the first 2 months and realize that if this is my cup of tea. I think that's going to be my parting advice, that do your SWOT when you are at the realm of really making a big decision for yourself. Do talk to a lot of people and hear their experiences, but never let that overcome your own SWOT. You need to have that balance as to how much to hear and how much to filter out. And the last thing, it's good to have a couple of options open for the first initial few months, so that if that's not working out, you have another one to fall back on.
Yeah. So do you still follow that SWOT now? I mean, for yourself, I mean, do you still do that on a regular basis?
I do, yes, I do. Not as frequently, but anytime I'm faced with a, very, very strong decision that I need to go take, somewhere it has always been helpful. What has also allowed me to do, Pavan, is not deviate myself into a lot of other works, which is good to do, but you don't want that to be a part of your profile. So, for example, I very clearly work towards either mentorship with these budding students and initial set of professionals that I work with, or in the space of diversity and inclusion. Outside of these two large buckets, if any new opportunity comes in, if it falls into a complete different domain, my SWOT allows me to analyze whether I need to be a part of it or not. So it just, helps you stay very focused otherwise in life.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we will get into the topic now. What marketing is not. Okay, that is a very interesting title that people have. They've been asking me. So they asked me, what marketing is not. I think, I think yes. From your, in your perception, first of all, we will define what marketing is not, and then let us get into the product that you've been currently working on, and currently because of corona or this COVID-19. So what are your new strategies that you've been implementing now? Something that we would like to know. Yeah.
Sure. And when Disha and I were planning this session, we very deliberately did not want to, call it as what is marketing, because I think there are that mostly people understand. There is a bit of an understanding about what marketing is. But I think what's more important, and that's what we wanted to do via today's session, is to pick up those myths that people think marketing is, which they later realize when they enter the profession or they start doing it themselves that, no, that's not what I thought. And I come from my own experience. When I was doing my graduation, even post-graduation, for the longest time, I believed that marketing is equivalent to advertising. That marketing is all about meeting celebrities, making fancy advertisements and airing them on TV, and going on fancy product shoots and advertisement shoots. But it was only after I joined Pepsico and did things on my own, literally dirtied my hands, I realized that advertising is a very, very tiny part of this entire world called marketing. Okay, so like I said, that I'm a bit analytical. So I've, in my mind, I've almost converted marketing into this equation format, and let me try and explain that to the students out here today. So there are two sides of every coin, right? So in terms of economy, there are two sides. One is the demand side and the other is the supply side. So there has to be demand for any product, any service, any idea. And then someone has to go supply it. And then when the demand and supply kind of meets, the revenue generates, right? So that's core economics. That's core business. Marketing is almost the right-hand side of that equation, which is marketing is the demand generation work. So any work that you do to generate demand for a product or a service or an idea is marketing. Okay. Now, what can I do to generate demand? I could do anything. I could create a great product, which is very, very effective. For example, let's say Metamorphosis Cool is a great product because it has a requirement out there in the market. Okay. Then I will price it right. Having created a great product, I will price it right to make sure that people are accessing it well. Then I will make it available, which is the whole place part of it. I'll make it available for people to go access it, right? Then I will promote it well. And promotion is not just advertising. Promotion is a lot of below the line advertising, a lot of sampling, a lot of word of mouth, a lot of influencer activity, a lot of sessions like these. All of this, which is the product, the place, the price, the promotion, all of this together form marketing. And advertising, like I said, was a very tiny part of somewhere in the entire promotion mix, which is again a very tiny part of the overall marketing. So as marketeers, what you do is build a lot of demand by providing the right product at the right price, at the right place, by means of right promotion. And today it's actually beyond these 4 P's. It's gone down to packaging, which is the 5th P, because packaging is almost equivalent to your promotion in hands of the people. It's the most tangible form of promotion for your own product, right? And then people are the sets of team that you work with, and you work together to make all this happen. So all this together is marketing, and all this together leads to creation of demand. And once you've created that demand, then you have this team called the sales team, which goes and services that demand in stores, through online, or via various other platforms. And when these two meet, revenue comes in. Okay, so one of the biggest myths that I've always tried to clarify is marketing is not advertising. It's much, much more than that. It's almost all the levers that you put together to create demand for your product is what marketing. Okay, that's one element of what marketing is not. The second thing that I am very very passionate about, and not every marketer would probably agree to it as well, is, at least for me, marketing did not start with all these. It did not start with creation of demand. For me, marketing started much before with sales. So when I had joined PepsiCo, and like most MBAs, what I wanted to do was straightforward, get onto a great brand and make advertisements. But what I did for the first 3 years was hardcore sales, going outlet to outlet, working with a team of 6 direct reportees, 40 distributors, 200 odd salesmen. And together we were covering entire Haryana state's foods business for PepsiCo India. And I realized that that's when a lot of foundation development for me happened, which was understanding the basics of marketing, understanding consumers, understanding customers, understanding those deep insights, which at times are very different from what you think of in AC rooms, right? So my advice to any student or any budding professional who aspires to be in marketing, or even if not in marketing, who aspires to be an entrepreneur, even if, to start something of your own, touching base the ground realities and doing it yourself, for first few years is goes a long way. It kind of formulates a foundation for you that sticks with you through and through. So that's another thing. Marketing is not just the 4 P's or the 5 P's. It is understanding sales at the background as well. And yeah, that's largely the two big myths that I really wanted to talk about, Pawan.
Yeah, I mean, often people also think that, sales and marketing, they go together, right? I mean, even whenever we are referring to, I take care of sales and marketing, I take care of, I'm
Yeah,
going to sales and marketing person. I think today it's a very good insight that you have given, that, yes, I mean, sales is completely different and marketing is completely different. And
yeah,
one question that I wanted to ask you is, for you, because PepsiCo has already created a brand and trust in the, industry,
right.
but people who are starting something on their own, for example, people who are still in the ideation stage, while they are trying to create a demand, what all the things that they need to do that, because yes, they might be solving a problem, but there might not be any demand, or there might not be any credibility that they have established. So
Yeah.
so how to create a demand? I mean, any marketing technique that you guys follow when you are launching a product with PepsiCo, or that you have seen, that what are the generic things that you follow while you are creating a demand?
Sure. So, see, PepsiCo has its own version of evaluating ideas, and some form of that version exists in every other organization that's there. But let me try and explain that generically. When you are starting out something new, an absolute new idea or an absolute new brand that has never existed, I think the first step is to understand what is the consumer problem that you're trying to solve. If your core proposition does not solve something that's right now there in market, that's right now needed or sought after, I think that becomes a false start, right? You would never come up with a service or an idea or a product which right now no one needs. Okay, so there has to be a gray area, there has to be a white space that you want to tap into. And how do you get to that? That is the first ideation stage that you do. Different organizations call it differently, but it essentially means to, and there are various ways of doing it. One way of doing it is just meeting consumers and lots of consumers, hear them speak, uh, almost immerse in their regular lives. Something that we do back in our organization when we are launching a new product or even launching a new form of promotion, we immerse ourselves in our consumers, which means it could mean that we are going to their homes with their permission, staying with them almost 12 hours, going with them inside their kitchen, knowing what they're using, what kind of ingredients are they using, seeing what kind of dishes do they cook, what are the different meals that they have during the day, who all do they cook for, what are the different age profiles that they cater to. So it's literally getting into the skin of your own consumers and a wide variety of that, so that you identify that one problem, right? For example, let me talk about Doritos, the brand that I currently head. Why does that brand exist? You know, why is there a need for another snack called the Doritos, while there are zillion other snacks out there in market? Doritos satisfies a specific need for consumer, right? Which probably any other category of snacks right now is not able to do. We are one of the crunchiest snacks. So the whole brand attribute, the product attribute for any nacho, and especially in case of Doritos, is the crunch element. It's crunchier than potato chips. It's crunchier than namkeens. It's crunchier than a lot of other snacks. And that's its core proposition. And that crunch was required for people. So for any brand, any idea, I think the starting point is, what is that gap that the consumers have in their life? And that's the ideation stage. Once you have that, it's good to convert those ideas into concepts. Okay. Now these concepts can simply be textual description of your product or your idea. And then again, you go back to consumers, literally showing them your concept card, narrating it to them and asking them, then how do you feel about it? Do you think it's an overpromise? Do you think it's an underpromise? Do you think it's credible? Do you think it's not credible? At that stage, you pick up a lot of nuances and elements about your product. And that's when you start developing it. And after every stage of development, you again go back to your consumers and keep checking, you know, till your finished product comes out. Because then you would have inculcated almost every feature, every benefit that your consumer needs, right? Once you do that, I think competitive check is something that you definitely need to do. Again, different organizations have different forms of naming it, but essentially, is your product unique? Is your product feasible for you to make? I mean, or has it become like a NASA rocket that you yourselves can't now make anymore? So is it feasible for you? Is it profitable for you to make that product anymore? And does it have entry-exit barriers for people? Once you evaluate all of that, you know you've now made a concept which is solid, which people need, which no one else can copy, and which you can manufacture and make available profitably for yourself. Once that basic is done, Pawan, then after that, it's you know, the overall cosmetics. Then it's the packaging or the presentation or the promotion. But I think that's the basic. And that's going to be my advice to anyone, that whenever you're starting anything new, go as deep as possible in your consumers and take that time. It's okay. The ideation stage could take 50% of the entire up to the launch stage. And it's okay if you're doing that, because trust me, that's the most critical part. That's where most launches falter. And you know, and there's this famous saying that 99.9% of innovations done in a year fail. It's just the 0.1% that go through and see that light of 5 years down the line. But I think the only difference is that this 0.1% were doing the entire ideation phase very diligently, almost like a rigmarole.
Yes, yes. So very interesting points. I mean, within this, you know, just 2 minutes, I've got very interesting questions. So you are saying that, you know, the crunch part is the value proposition for, you know, Doritos. So how did you guys identify that, you know, people are missing that crunch? I mean, did you guys do any research on that, you know, we would be requiring some crunch items during the morning breakfast, or, you know, during our, this thing. And I always, do the competitor analysis. When I'm teaching also competitor analysis, I always compare between Pepsico and Coke, where Coke is completely focusing in the beverages, but whereas Pepsico is into the breakfast items also, you know, along with the Subway, you will see a lot of Pepsico products like, say, Kurkure, Lays, and all of those. Even though
Yeah.
you are having Kurkure, Lays, and all of these snack items, what made you guys to come with this Doritos? And I know you're talking about, you know, the competitive check. You know, there are hundreds of snack items. I mean, whether it could be locally made snack items till, you know, the internationally reputed products. So where did you place this Doritos and how well it is doing it now?
Right. Like I said, Pawan, for us, the starting point was the consumers. And the way we do it, there are multiple form of researches that one can do. And we thankfully have a fantastic set of team, extremely specialized in helping us unlayer the consumer speak. So we do a lot of work. We do sensorial work, and sensorial work is very, very interesting work, which is from the product features, consumers are laddered up to emotional benefits that they get out of a product. Okay, so while Doritos is all about crunch, but what does that crunch do to them? What does that crunch do to their lives? Is what we try to unravel. Uh, when we spoke to 100 odd consumers through the country, because we are a national brand and we are as much available in Delhi as much are we in, let's say, a Cochin in Kerala. We have to make sure, and India is a different country in different states, right? It's multi countries folded together into one. So hence our consumer panels are very wide. And with the help of this kind of a sensorial work, we are able to understand that what product feature of our offering ladders to what kind of emotional benefit for consumers. And with that, we are able to communicate not just the product benefit, but do it in an attitude and in a tonality which resonates with the consumers emotionally. I mean, think of it, if I were to make a Doritos communication and say, this is a super crunchy snack, please go have it. I don't think anyone's going to go buy, because consumers won't understand why do they need to have crunch, right? That's where the storytelling, that's where the whole communication element comes in. And if you look at Doritos advertisement right now, it has a lot of attitudinal statements in it. We show a certain age profile of people in a certain setup who you are able to relate to, who almost aspires you to move from your traditional consumptions to something cool, something new, something bold, right? That's the power of storytelling that comes me. But if you filter all of that out, essentially it was a deep, deep consumer insight that crunch stimulates their sensorials internally, which gives them some kind of an inner jolt and inner confidence, and then that allows them to do and express themselves in far more a bold manner. That's where Doritos started. It's a global product that was lifted and shifted in India and then adapted for Indian markets. Eventually, then manufactured here and sold. Every step of our offering, the product, the packaging, the pricing that we have, all of that is customized to Indian audience. And when we started, we were the 28th player, Pawan, in the nacho chips category, or the tortilla chips category, as we call it. And today we are the leaders with significantly higher shares than any other competition out there. And we also have the tag of being the world's #1 nacho chip brand. So I think very strong, grounded consumer work through sensorials, through focus groups, through product tastings is what has allowed us to be where we are right now.
Yes. So how is it doing in the global scale? I mean, in India, yes. I mean, you've been saying so. Globally, also, are there any other competitors that is somewhere close to you, or globally, how is Doritos doing now?
So, Pawan, snacks category as such is a category wherein you will have varied competitions globally. So almost every market will have their own cuisine, have their own taste profiles, and hence the competition will also be varied there. But we are the leaders in nacho chips across. Like I said, we are certified by Euromonitor, one of the certification agencies, and we are the global world's #1 nacho chip brand. So yes, we have different competitions and different players in different markets. But Doritos, wherever has entered, has been able to craft its own niche by means of the product that we have, by means of the overall package that we have, and the offering that we are able to do. So I think, in my view, most markets that Doritos is present in, it's leader by far, significantly leader by far.
Yes. So let us talk about the fifth P that you've been mentioning, the packaging part.
Yeah.
In the packaging part, so how does it change the user's conception? I mean, the user's perception towards buying a product, because I see Doritos are very fancily packed. In fact, Lay's, Doritos, all the PepsiCo products are very much, fancily packed. So, so what measures that you guys take when you are designing the fifth P that you've been mentioning?
Right. So when you say packaging, Pawan, there are essentially two elements to the packaging. One is the substrate. What material is your packaging made out of? And the other is the design on the packaging. Okay, these are two different elements of the entire marketing mix, and they are catered to differently. So we have a very strong R&D team back in working with us The substrate is ensured and made available in such a manner that it allows for the best quality product every time every individual picks it up from any shelf. Okay, these are tested. So any new product that we do, any new packaging that is ever designed, or any packaging specs that are ever changed, always go through series of consumer test and transportation tests, right? I mean, for example, Doritos is manufactured in Calcutta. That's the only location in the entire country where it's made. And from there, it will move 2,000 kilometers almost to reach multi other locations, right? So you have to make sure that in the Indian ambient temperature conditions, does the travelability happen? So there's a lot of science behind getting the substrates in. The other part is the design element. I think design very closely comes from the entire brand communication. Each of our brands have their own brand architectures. They're almost like, what is the brand? Who is the brand? If you have to personify the brand, what will he or she, what will that person look like? What age will that person be of? What kind of language will that person speak? What kind of clothes will that person wear? So it's almost personifying your brand. And then any communication from the brand, whether it's on the package or it's on TV, has to resonate with that personification. It cannot be all of a sudden a different character, right? Packaging, like I said, is a very, very important asset in the entire marketing mix. Why? Because it's the closest any consumer gets to your communication. You're literally holding my pack, and through the year, we have millions and millions of packs getting transacted. So millions and millions of people are holding it there in their hand. And consumers today are very smart. They just don't pick the pack, open and consume and throw it, right? They go through it, they read it. They always turn it now back and read what's the fat content. What is the shelf life left? Where was it manufactured? Does it have an X ingredient which I am allergic to? They will always read all of that. So we take a lot of pride in communicating very purposefully and very vigilantly the right set of information at the back of our pack. And on the front of our pack, we make sure that our brand communication is made available in the right format. So if you pick up a Doritos pack, it has these big bold chips right at the center, which will tell you what the product is, and almost entice you to toy with the pack, at least understand what that is. We take a lot of pride in our brands. So almost all our packs will have huge branding right at the center, because we want you to know that it's coming from the house of Pepsico and it is Doritos, which is an international brand. And hence we'll always assure quality to you. So that's right at the center. We're very transparent with the consumers. So there will be a big call out of pricing right at the front of the pack. So there is no scope of ambiguity at all. And at the back of the pack, apart from the legal mandatory information, there is a lot of information that we otherwise provide. So for example, there will always be a consumer feedback link that you can log on to and share your comments, queries, concerns with us. We will always provide information about where have we been manufactured, when have we been manufactured, what is the best way of consuming us, and what are the other flavors that we are available in. So we take a lot of pride on our packaging. In fact, when I was on Kurkure, right before Doritos, the entire brand had gone through a lot of packaging change. And all of that change was again deeply rooted into consumers. I remember that we had brought consumers into this virtual world. We'd given them these eyewears, which they had to wear, and they could see a busy modern trade store while they were in the comfort of our office. And then we had asked them to go pick our packs, almost as if they would regularly go and shop. And once they picked, the eyewear was able to heat map that what are they looking at on our pack, what element of the pack have they spent how much time on. And basis that and basis all of that input, we had to redesign a lot of elements of the pack. So every aspect of the marketing mix is deeply, deeply rooted into consumers. And you don't always have to go do these fancy researches. There are very, very traditional homegrown ways of researching, but so long as you want to understand what the consumer is saying, I think you're home.
Very interesting. Again, talking about the startups here, the aspiring entrepreneurs again. At what stage do you really think that they'll have to think about the marketing or the 4Ps? Do you think that they'll have to think about this right before the ideation that we've been talking anyways? They have their problem statements and hence they'll start their entrepreneurial journeys. But marketing, for example, say for Metamorphosis, at least for the first 3 months, I never thought about, how to market it or how to start with my Facebook page or how to come up with my own brochure. I was always
Yeah.
focusing on product. I was always focusing on my content. But at what stage do you really recommend that, we'll have to think about all the 4 P's that,
Yeah.
we'll have to consider? Yes.
Sure. So Pawan, when the students are thinking about the product and their idea and thinking what features that idea needs to have or what features that product needs to have, they've already started marketing, right? Because product is the first step towards marketing. Uh, to your question, at what stage should one probably think about promoting it? I think after you are comfortably sure of your product, its features, and its pricing, and you know what channels and platforms you will use to make this product available in the hands of people or available virtually now to people, uh, that's when thinking about promotion helps, right? See, what would you promote? You would promote either the features of the product or the pricing of the product or where is it available or what does the product do in your life, right? All of that will only come through when you have thought about the product, the packaging, the price, and promotion of it. When you have thought about the insight, the product, and all the related aspects. Once you know that well, it's only then that your promotion will kick in. Now, within that, there is no early or later date for promotion, right? Because eventually you will have to make people aware about your offering. Now, whether that initial set of awareness is just, let's say, for example, in case of Metamorphosis, whether that initial set of awareness is just 50 schools in Hyderabad, for example, or whether it is about 1,000 schools across the country, that is what you need to decide. And obviously, then you build a plan, right? That by this year, 3 years down the line, X number of people of my target group should be aware about me. And then by another 5 years, close to 70% of my target group should be aware about me. That's how you set targets and that's how you progress. But to your question, when is the right time to start thinking about your promotion is after you have nailed all the other P's of your entire marketing.
All right. So, anyways, we'll discuss for 4 more minutes, and then we'll open for the questions. Already, the lot of questions are popping up. I wanted to know about, everyone thinks that marketing requires a lot of money. Unless you have a lot of money, you cannot market it, you cannot promote it. But at least for us, I mean, people who are in the very initial stages or the early stage ventures, what is
Yeah.
the more organic way to market? I mean, do you follow the same guidelines there also? Because we do not know, we haven't validated the idea yet, because we cannot call ourselves as a successful brand, because we are still, piloting, we are still testing a lot of things. So during this phases, what is the most, organic way to brand our, ventures?
Word of mouth, in my mind, is the most credible and the most organic way of reaching out to your target audiences. The disadvantage of that is it's a slower process. But I think if planned well and almost, set it up a target against that, like I said, that by end of this year, 2% of my target audience should know me. And by the end of next year, 10% of my target audience should know me. If that is the approach that you take, I've always been a very, very strong believer of word of mouth. A lot of new brands that I discover in my life is not because I see them on Facebook or because I get a advertisement from them on my Insta page, but because one of my friends or one of my family members would have recommended that to me. It's one of the cheapest way of doing it. And it comes the hard way, right? I mean, word of mouth comes to you the hard way. You'll have to have a great product and great offering. You would have to have connected with, let's say in case of Metamorphosis, X number of schools already for them to start talking positive word of mouth. And if there is some sort of a gratification that you can provide in return for that word of mouth, you can exponentially increase that. So my personal advice has always been to go that route, especially for brands which are very small, which are just starting out. Don't burn your money on fancy large-scale advertisements because you will reach there in some time. Start going closer to the ground. Word of mouth, promotion at the place of purchase, wherever your product will eventually be purchased from, promoting there, right at the local and ground level, are some of the very credible ways of doing it.
Interesting. We will take a couple of questions meanwhile.
Yes.
We have Mr. Tangala Venkateshwarlu is asking, do you see any impact of snack food sales during these pandemic days?
Okay, thank you for your question. Most categories during the COVID which have been impacted are because either the supply was a constraint or the demand was a constraint, and for a lot of categories it was both. Thankfully, at least for bulk of FMCG and particularly for packaged snacks, it was the supply side that was a larger constraint because we had labor restrictions, we had transportation restrictions, we had people moving out to stores lesser. So supply part was a bit of a constraint for us. But on the demand side, fortunately, we had a lot of love being shown to us from our consumers. I can talk about Doritos. During the entire lockdown of 2.5 months, we had the maximum number of user-generated content coming to us on our Insta pages on Doritos. So, it's intuitive, right? People are at home and they want to, refresh themselves up, rejuvenate themselves up, connect with their near and dear ones, and that's where our snacks come in, okay? Supply side was definitely constrained, but I think at Pepsico, we planned it well. We almost had plan D ready, that if A doesn't work, B doesn't work, C doesn't work, D is what we're going to go with. So to your question, a significant impact on supply side, not so much on the demand side.
Okay, interesting. I mean, we have, again, Arjun Vijayanarayanan is asking, hey Dola, with the advent of health conscious millennials and this whole new rage into organic or non-GMO products, etc., how has the marketing for Doritos evolved?
Right. Thank you for that question. And it's an interesting one. See, there are a lot of internal guardrails that PepsiCo follows. For example, we have a very strict policy that we will never advertise to kids for any of our brands which do not meet those internal compliances. So any of the advertisements for Doritos that you will ever pick up, or for that matter, for most of our brands that you will ever pick up, they will never be directed towards kids. We will never be selling in school areas. We will never be showing a child in our advertisement. We will never be directly, intentionally selling it to them. So that's one. Second, while there is this huge concern about health, our products are not the most quality manufactured snacks that's available. So every time you are craving to have snacks, and you want to have a quality version of it, you come up to us at PepsiCo and buy one of our products. Third, while there is a huge rage of concern on health, and that's the right thing to do, I think there are moments in life for each one of us as an individual wherein we want to let loose, wherein we want to rejuvenate, wherein we don't want to think about health, at least for that 1 5 minute. And that's where our brands come in, And it's clear that they have a very, very strong place in audiences, despite the entire health concern, and that's why they're there. So that's on the brands for us, which are on the fun for you kind of paradigm. But we do have which are absolutely good for you. So like Pawan had picked up initially, we have a whole breakfast range that's available, which is for you, which is healthy for you to consume. We have a whole juice range that's available under Tropicana. So Quaker was the breakfast brand and Tropicana on the juice fronts. I think the broader picture is that as an organization, we have a very, very purposeful way of communicating with our audiences. Very strong internal guardrails on what we can and what we cannot, which has really, really helped us sail through very well.
Interesting. I mean, very, very interesting insight. In fact, I really like the question also. I think we have had discussion on this earlier, especially on the kids, people have that misconception that, the snack foods are dangerous than the junk foods, rightly what Tangala Venkateshwarlu has mentioned. So there is a misconception among people like, snack foods are dangerous than junk food. So what is your take on that? I mean, which category do you think that, people are going to perceive this, the snack foods? So do you really think that, they're going to think the snack foods as junk foods, or the perception is being changing over the years? What is your analysis on that, Dola?
Pawan, I don't think I'd want to, at this point in time, mention whether consumers think it's a junk food or not.
Yeah,
But like I mentioned, it's a quality packaged snack. And
correct.
back end at our office also, the categorization that we do for our snacks is packaged, branded packaged snack food, which
Yes,
is manufactured with full quality grades and made available via the best of the packaging and the best of the transportations in the right formats and qualities right at the store ends. Now, whether it's a junk food or not, I think that consumers, the consumers will have their own verdict around it. But more importantly, every category of food that exists today in the market and sells has a requirement for people. And so long as it's done purposefully, I think, that's the right thing to do.
interesting. Interesting. So we have Komal Matthews asking the question that why did Doritos decrease their price considerably? How was it useful?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Komal. I'm going to go back to the same old response that I always give, that it was deeply, deeply rooted in consumers' speak. We did a lot of market analysis before changing our pricing. We went to consumers and asked them what are the big barriers that they have when they are going and trying out Doritos, and not just Doritos, the tortilla chip as a category. And consumers told us that price and the expensiveness of the category overall is a big trial barrier. Now, always remember that tortilla chip or nacho chip as a category is not, inherent to India, right? Potato chips we used to make at home. Namkeens our grandmothers used to fry at home. Nacho chips as a category is international. It's a foreign category that we've probably seen for the first time in a restaurant or a cinema theater. As a result, it does have this alien inhibition to it as a category. So we at Pepsico, we realize that for more and more people to access it, it will have to be made available at a price point which consumers feel comfortable enough to pay. We did a lot of back-end work to make sure that we are able to make that price offering available to consumers, feasibly for us as well. And then we made it available. And once that pricing was decided, I remember we had started out with a small pilot. We picked up West Bengal and there done a 6 months pilot to see what's the traction like, compared it to other geographies. And having done all of that, we were very certain that that's the right route to go. Another thing that Doritos has always thought that we have the onus of building the tortilla chip category. So we don't want to play the share game in this category. We don't want to say that we've taken 5% share of that competition. We don't want to do that because it's a smaller category. It's only growing. And like most other categories which PepsiCo has boosted, this is something that we take onus of. And for that, for the category to expand, we really thought that was the best decision to do.
Interesting, interesting. And do you really think that pricing will lead to the marketing conception of the people? I mean, if it's priced low, that means there is something wrong with the quality. Because especially I'm talking the startups perspective. Whenever we are putting any pricing, we debate 100 times. See, if at all we are pricing it low to get more customers on board, then people might think that the quality is bad in this. Let us not price it
Right.
low. Let us price it premium. But again, whenever we are pricing it premium, there are hundreds of questions that you have not yet established your credibility. So how could you price this much? So especially
Right.
it is happening with at least 1 or 2 year old startups as well. The ventures. So whenever we are trying to price a product, so what all things that we need to consider, Dola? I'm not talking about the Doritos perspective, but the startups perspective.
Sure. I think, Pawan, you partly answered the question yourself, and you talked about this word called credibility. Whenever you're trying to underprice your product, ever before you think of reducing your product price or the service price, I think you have to ask yourself that what's the current stage of credibility of my brand with my consumers. If I'm an established brand and my qualities and product features and services are well aware to my audiences, a reduction in price is always justified by the consumer in their mind, because they know that this as a brand will never ever play with the quality that I'm getting. Similarly, on the other side, there is an extent to premiumizing your credibility as well. There is only so much that you can charge additional for the credibility that you've put. So I think that's the right balance that one needs to identify. Again, a lot of that comes by understanding and speaking to consumers that if this is my brand, what is the credibility that does it have in your mind? And what do you think are the two extreme ranges for me to price the lowermost and price the uppermost? A lot of that analysis actually helps you answer, but credibility is the word that you pick up.
Yes.
Should we take one last, Pavan?
Yes. One last question we'll just take. And okay, I wanted to ask from the principal's perspective also. There are few principals watching on their behalf, especially during this time. Especially education. There is a lot of debates that are happening. Especially regarding the school fee, or it could be completely adapting because they also have become a technological organizations now. COVID-19 has made everyone into a tech companies. So especially during this time, I've got two questions from the principals. How are you motivating your team? Because everyone is working remotely. So how are you guys, motivating each other during this pandemic time? And second thing is, when they have completely adapted to a tech organization altogether, so they are very much confused on how to market at this time because they're not able to market during this pandemic. So, what are your views? What are your suggestions or recommendations to the school decision makers?
Sure. So my first advice, and that's a personal advice that I'm taking, I think the moment we accept that this is the new normal and that this will stay for some time to come, and when I mean some time, it could be 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. The moment we accept the longevity of this new normal, I think half of the battle is won in mind, right? Because then you know that you have to already start thinking about the alternate ways of reaching to people. That's one. Second, most of us today on this panel, because we've connected electronically, are very, very well blessed to know that that's a big power that we already have. I know most of the schools in my vicinity. My mother-in-law herself is a teacher. My dad is now taking a lot of online classes. Almost all of us have already moved online. Identifying the right platform and making sure that it's a safe enough platform for the entire community to come and participate on is the second big step. The third is to start tweaking your content and make it become online friendly. Not every module can just be lifted and shifted and presented online, right? Because the audience span in terms of attention will be restricted. The number of minutes that you would want to do will be restricted. The number of people that you can see in one go will be restricted. Converting your content to make it online friendly is the third step, I would say, towards being ready for COVID. But like I said, the starting point is to accept that this will be there for some time. So finding resolves around it, I would say, is the first thing.
Yes, correct. All right. So thank you so much, Dola, for taking the questions and also sharing your insights. I think it was a wonderful session, and I'm sure it is very much insightful. And whenever you speak, we get a lot of insights on the marketing. And yes, we clearly understood what marketing is not. We have a lot of perceptions that sales is also marketing, advertising is also marketing. But yeah, how to do the 4 P's along with the extra P packaging at this minute is something that we have really understood. And once again, it was just a pleasure connecting with you again, and looking forward for many more sessions. So thank you, Dola. So anyways, we will be the students who missed today's episode, you guys will be getting the recorded session of this. And next week we have Ms. Meenakshi Oberoi, who is the educational evangelist and CEO of DE Pedagogics. So she's going to talk about future ready skills for young entrepreneurs. She's going to talk about her vision for what all skills that is required in this 21st century. And just to give you guys an update about MSc admissions. So currently, the phase 3 deadlines are approaching, and from August 1st onwards, the school is going to be launched. So people who could not, apply yet, here is the chance. So do not miss your third deadline, guys. And wishing you all to stay safe, and see you guys in the next episode. And we have successfully finished about 10 episodes during this COVID-19. All right, looking forward to see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.